Okay, well, let's move to a little bit more interesting topic. Jen, I'm sure as you're aware, Mike, you and I have not done this today. You
That's
know what? We don't
correct.
want to give her the opportunity to do that, do we, Mike?
What?
She's it's 2:37. Or well, I don't know.
No, let's move on.
I
Jen,
think we should.
wait, sorry, go ahead.
I think we should move on.
Okay, good.
You'll just have to have me on again to do whatever you were talking about.
Right.
Phrasing. Okay, so there are a handful of stories that you sent me, Jen, and they're all interesting to me. You've got the CIA official that would rather kill. We've got
awesome.
Vaccinations in Michigan, which is surprising to me. I figured that well, we can talk about that too.
Pick up later, yeah.
Also, the Scott Hounsel, the former executive director of the LA Republican Party, in his lawsuit. So, you pick.
Oh gosh. Well, since we started in California, so we can go here and maybe move to Michigan, because I know you guys just talked about the CIA a little bit.
Right.
But you wrote a great. Well, okay. You pick. You're the guest.
Hey, you guys just asked me questions. You're in charge.
No. Go ahead.
Okay, so here are my questions. What's so unique about Michigan? I want to. This is interesting to me. I would think that California has the highest waiver for vaccinations because California is on the cutting edge of pseudoscience. What's the deal with Michigan? How is it that?
Yeah, it's actually Oregon is number one, and I think it's a population thing because California has such higher population. It would take such an enormous number of people to get higher up on those waivers because we're not even in the top 10. Now, Michigan is a pretty granola place in places, even in the more conservative political areas. I have family and friends a lot in Western Michigan, and they're very much into the organic movement and that kind of thing. So I don't know what it is necessarily about Michigan that makes it any better, but it's what's ironic to me all the time is it's these people that want organic foods. They want little Johnny to be in the right school. They want to do all these things to make sure that he has this great childhood, and they fail to vaccinate them against life-threatening diseases. It's stunning.
Well, is it the perspective on that, though, is that the vaccinations themselves are harmful, cause autism, and a bunch of other pseudoscience nonsense?
Yeah, that's what they claim. And one of the article, or one of the quotes was just precious from one of the parents. He was saying, well, the probability of getting one of these diseases is low, and even if you do get something, it's probably not going to be that severe. Have you ever watched somebody die of measles or tetanus?
Oh my gosh, what a perspective. I mean, these are people that bubble wrap their children and require them to have helmets when they go to the park when they're not allowed to be on a swing set. Yet they're totally good with risking a lack of immunization.
Right. And another quote that I didn't get into this story, because there's a huge report that I took my story from, and the parent was saying, well, you don't avoid illness by putting illness into your body. Well, no, exactly. That is how vaccines work. That you do not understand germ theory if you say that. You don't understand how antibodies work. And yet these people are supposedly educated.
Well, if you graduate from your liberal arts college with a degree in 14th century feminist lesbian literature, and you
might not have taken biology.
Well, exactly. And you spend your time donating at the local organic, non-GMO, non-Monsanto co-op, you're the perfect person to weigh in on how to prevent childhood diseases for your children. I mean, it's genius.
You know what? But on a larger scale, I mean, and again, I'm not coming down on one side or the other here with this question or statement question. I mean, there are people opposite, Michael, of what you just described, who claim, and I don't even know what they are, but who claim to have statistics, who claim to have results. And I know, I mean, I'm on your side here in terms of the numbers, but there are people for some reason other than being granola flip-flop wearers that are opposed to vaccination.
Well, some of them believe that it's going to have a higher, their children will have a higher risk of autism from stuff with the mercury and
Right.
the preservative, which, and I'm not an expert on all this because there's a ton of information out there about it, but it was from one study, I think either 12 or 16 years ago, that has since been debunked, but people still go back to that study. If you look at from what the doctors say, if you look at that study from a scientific perspective, it didn't have the right controls. It wasn't set up properly in a scientific way.
Yeah, and again, I'm just playing kind of point counterpoint here, and I don't know what the numbers are, and I'm sure they're different for different vaccination. But just like any drug commercial that you see on TV these days, like 25% of it is about telling you about the benefits of the drug, and the other 75% is telling you what could maybe happen to you as a result of taking the said drug. I think there's a bit of that going on, right? Because in one out of fill in the blank, depending on the vaccination, could actually cause to happen what they're trying to prevent in the future, right?
Right. That's true. That's true. I mean, there's a small number of people that can't can't get immunized either because of
Right.
whatever allergies they might have and that kind of thing. But it brings up interesting personal liberty questions too, because should you be compelled to inject something in yourself or in your child? But
There
then
you
at the
go.
same time, if you're going to put your child into, I mean, does an institution have the right to say, okay, well, if you're going to be in my institution, then these are the rules you have to play by?
Good point as well. So it's a
So it's a
complicated
great
issue.
debate.
Well,
Yes.
that's the thing is that my kids are sitting in a public school classroom right now, and there are a variety of kids from widely disparate cultures. And the one thing I don't want is there's a reason why that there's certain diseases like this, childhood diseases, etc., have had a history of immunization. The science is not paper napkin with your French lit lesbian degree. It's actual scientists that have proven a connection and a successful thwarting of a disease that actually, in some cases, some of these diseases hadn't existed in America for years and years and years. I don't want your woo believing pseudoscience lefty progressive nonsense to cause my kid to get something that might kill them.
Right. When science has already given us the way to prevent it.
Exactly.
You know what? And you bring up the larger point as it relates to illegal immigrants. Listen. I've already said this anyway. I mean, if I had small children at this point, and if I was of limited means, and the only way that I could send them to private schools was to live in a tent, I would do that. But I can just imagine, your school systems forced to educate illegal immigrants, and everything that we've heard, when the border crisis was going on earlier in the summer, and you hear about the diseases that are coming across the border. Michael, as you said, haven't existed here for years. I can't imagine having a child of mine sit in a classroom with, fill in the number of those kids.
Well, the interesting thing too in this story out of Michigan is that the private schools have a much higher non-immunization rate than the public schools, because
That might get
that's where
back to
the
your
more
personal liberty
affluent,
thing.
well, that's where the more affluent parents are, and the ones that are the more educated, and that's who it's showing are the ones that are not immunizing. It's the same here in LA. In West LA, they have the highest number of non-vaccinated children, and that's where all of the cluster of super wealthy, educated people.
And again, what I missed that. What's the logic, or what's the reason for more educated, wealthy people to not want immunization?
Well, to me, it's not logical.
Well, to them it is.
To them it
So,
is. Well, because they are reading everything, and it seems that they're skeptical of science, and they want to do everything for their child. Maybe they're not trusting the way that things were done in the past. Maybe if they are lefty progressive, they question authority. They question what's being fed to them from whatever authoritative sources. So they're doing their own research and going,
right.
Hey,
Well,
you, the
absolutely,
man, you're not
because
going to make me do this.
right, they just signed the online petition against Monsanto. They are active on a nonprofit board based in Venice that is trying to fight back against big pharma and big pharma's attempts to destroy the lives of Americans. What they are, I mean, you both of you guys are aware of Los Feliz Daycare on Twitter, right?
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's a huge thing. Is that vaccinated kids are not allowed into Los Feliz daycare because of the thing. It's like if your child is vaccinated, don't even think about bringing them into our school.
Well, and the part of me just says, all right, if you stupid people want to let your kids be unvaccinated and get sick and die, yay, that's Darwin. Have you ever heard of him? That's Darwin at work. But then the problem with that is then there are the people who would like to be immunized but aren't because of whatever medical conditions they have. It threatens our herd immunity to let these people not immunize.
Absolutely, that's exactly correct. It's just the map on this thing is just very interesting. I get Oregon, totally get Oregon. I get Vermont and Maine, but I just
Get
can't.
Washington and Wisconsin too. So should we tell them what the top 10 states are?
Yeah, please do go for it.
Okay, so Oregon number 1, Idaho number 2. They're both very, Idaho is such a survivalist kind of place. I can get that. Vermont is number 3, Michigan number 4, Maine number 5, Alaska number 6. Which there's how often do you come in contact with another human being in Alaska, right?
Right.
Arizona number 7, Wisconsin number 8, Washington State number 9, and then Colorado 10. So pretty progressive, outdoorsy kind of places.
Yeah.
Right. It stuns me for California. I mean, I imagine if you were to drill down into Marin County and Los Angeles County, that it would be extremely high rate of folks. And then even further, if you were to go to Santa Monica, Venice, San Francisco itself, and maybe Santa Cruz,
Brentwood, yeah.
then it's going to be like 102% of the people are figuring out the science to unvaccinate their children in some of those places.
And, look at those stupid rednecks in the South. They're vaccinating their kids.
I know, right? Well, and you bring up the Darwin thing 2 generations from now. You know what? I just thought of something, Jen. From a political, tactical standpoint, if
Let it go, right?
Exactly, is that they are self-selecting the destruction for their their families, and
Right.
maybe two generations from now, that will be a way that the herd is cold of lefty progressive influence just by them not vaccinating themselves. Huh.
You sound like Margaret Sanger from playing.
only we're letting personal liberty take the reins at this. We're not forcing anything.
Well, we're letting them do it to themselves.
Except
All right,
we're just
listen.
not standing in their way.
All right, listen. We got 10 minutes. Just the head. I mean, read the headline of your post on IJR because this has been asked. This was asked of Josh Earnest. I love that name, by the way, for an Obama lapdog. Josh Earnest. That's just a bit oxymoronic to me. But anyway, having said that, your headline, this has been being debated. Former CIA official, this administration takes no prisoners. They'd rather kill them from afar. That's outstanding. Tell us about that.
Well, this was Jose Rodriguez. He used to be the director of the National Clandestine Service.
Right, I heard him last night.
These former CIA officers are just pissed at the way that they're being portrayed in this Senate report. So he's saying, back when we had Bush in charge, yeah, we tortured some people, or if you want to call it torture, we used enhanced interrogation techniques. We got a lot of information out of those that led to the destruction of Al-Qaeda. And now this administration would rather kill them from afar. And the problem with that is you don't get intelligence out of someone that you just struck them with a drone and killed them. You have the value that they're no longer there to hurt you. But if you captured them and you were able to get information out of them, what else can you prevent? How many more terrorists are you going to find?
And listen, and